Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to another session of conversations on consciousness. And today we have with us Vidwan V Subramanian ji joining us from Bengaluru. Before proceeding further, let me begin with a prayer. Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Agajanana Padmarkam Gajanana Marnisha Anekadantam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hare Om. Today we have with us Vidwan Sri Subramanian ji, who is from Bangalore. He studied in Bangalore and he has worked all his life in Bangalore at the Reserve Bank of India. And he took up a very traditional study of Advaita Vedanta, comprising of the prasthana traya Bhashyams of Shankaracharya, under the great Vedanta teacher, Acharya Veda Brahma Sri D.S.Subbaramaiya, who was a great teacher of Vedanta and who has also authored a wonderful 2-volume English book on Sri Dakshinamurthy Stotram, published by Sringeri Sharada Peetham. So, Subramanian ji studied Vedanta under him, and after retirement from his bank, he has continued to study and teach Advaita to both in online as well as in person. And he is he produces tremendous amount of content in his blog, a wonderful blog called Adbhutam. So we will be discussing about all this, his many works, his life journey and everything in today's conversation. Very warm welcome to you, Acharya. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitin. A very nice initiative that Indica Moksha, which is also popular to me as Advaita Academy. You have been doing lot of works and very novel things also you have been doing, especially in bringing many traditional teachers and non-traditional teachers to the forefront and helping them or helping the Advaita seeking community to get linked with the core Advaita texts and how the knowledge dissemination is possible. So you are a very, very key mode in that knowledge, in that possibility, making that knowledge a dissemination work. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the kind words, encouraging words, Acharya. This interview series also a continuation of that. We want to encourage more and more people to take up spirituality, to take up adhyatma and a dharmika life seriously and pursue it in their own way as much as possible, and try to familiarize them with various teachers that are present at various places. But more importantly, it wants to give a glimpse into the life, your own life, the speaker's life, their journey, how they got into spirituality, who are their influences. So my first question would be to share about your early life and especially people who influenced you, especially in the context of your spiritual journey. How did you have this? When did you develop this interest in Adhyatma, and who were your early influences on this?
After finishing college, I took up the job with the bank, and it was only God's way of linking me to this great world of Vedanta. I had a colleague with me in the bank who had a connection with our Guru, Sri Subramaiya, and he used to go to his house very often. And one day I asked him, why don't you take me to his house? Before that, I didn't have any background of, I didn't have any knowledge really, zero knowledge about Vedanta. I'd only heard of Shankaracharya's name, but Advaita as a name, I had not heard of at all. I was only doing after Upanayana, Sandhyavandanam and things like that. But then I was reading some stotras like Venkateshwara Suprabhatam and some stotras and Subrahmanian, but then not at all about Vedanta, because I didn't know that there was a path to moksha and what moksha is and what bondage is and things like that. I didn't know any of them. And my friend took me to my Guru's house who lived in Vasantanagar near Mount Carmel College in Bangalore. And my workplace, Reserve Bank of India, was very, very close to that place, about 2 or 3 kilometers, less than that. And once I went to my guru's house, he had by then retired from Government Science College. He was a professor of quantum physics, and especially physics, and there he was specializing in that quantum physics. And he was himself a research student under Sir C.V. Raman, the Nobel laureate in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. My guru was born in 1913. And he was born in a very orthodox Telugu Brahmin family, and they were settled in Bangalore. And he studied, and he took up this research work in the Indian Institute of Science. And then at that time itself, simultaneously, his spiritual awakening was coming up, and he got first influenced by the Ramakrishna order. And in Bangalore, Ramakrishna Mutt had a very, very great exalted Acharya, that is a Swamiji. His name was Swami Tyagishanandaji. He was the key person in this Bangalore Ramakrishna ashram. And that Swami Tyagishanandaji himself belonged to a Cochin royal family. And he had studied law, and he had started practicing law. And he had left it very early, knowing that there was a lot of lies and speaking lies, and he can't stick to Satya, Dharma, and all that if he was taking to that profession. And he was very drawn to this spiritual life, and he became a monk in the Ramakrishna order, and he was in Bangalore. And my Acharya was very, very highly influenced by that person. And later on, my Acharya wanted to study Vedanta in a very traditional form. Then people suggested him, you go to Sringeri and you get the blessings of the Acharya there. And Sri Chandrasekhara Bharati Swamiji was there at that time. And our Swamiji directed our Guru to take up the study of Vedanta in Bangalore by naming 2 or 3 very great Vidwans in Bangalore. And that way, my Acharya started studies with those Acharyas, those great Vidwans. And one of them was Sri V.S. Ramchandra Shastri, who is the father of the administrator of the present present administrator of the Sringeri Peetham, Sri Gauri Shankar's father. So my Acharya studied under him. He studied all the prasthana trayas and all that for a very long time. Simultaneously, he was working in the college also. And after he took retirement from the college, he started teaching at home. And that was the time I went to his house. And at that time, he was completing the manuscript writing of the Dakshinamurthy Stotram, a very huge book, about 1,200-page book, on just 10 slokas of Shankaracharya. This whole book contains so many commentaries and texts and all that of Advaita, core Advaita. Many of these, we would not have even heard the names of those books. He had collected so many books, and he had made a very big compendium of Advaita Vedanta. So many questions about Advaita Vedanta are answered in that book. And that is the greatness of that book. And now it has seen the 2nd edition, and it is going to the 3rd edition also. It is very much sought after book, and it has been translated into Kannada also to cater to the Kannada-speaking people. So that is the kind of Acharya. And he was a realized person, and very, very spiritual, and very close to the Sringeri Acharyas. The Acharyas have come to his house, and he has also been called by the Acharyas by private. The Acharyas have sent their car to take him to Sringeri and made him stay there for some time and all that. They have blessed him very, very tremendously. And our Acharya, our Guru, taught us so many texts. Apart from the Prasanatraya, he used to teach the Prakarana Granthas like Jivan Mukti Viveka, Swatmani Rupanam, Aparokshanubhuti, and so many texts. And our Acharya was born to teach. Anybody who would go and ask him for knowledge, he would never resist. And in a whole day, he used to have so many sessions of teaching of Vedanta. So that way, even Sundays, he wouldn't leave at all. In Sundays, there were more hours of teaching, and we were also going to go to his house and never miss. And if we missed one day, he used to be very, very angry, because this knowledge you won't get anywhere. And if you waste one day, it is gone forever. So that is the kind of rigor he had. And he stuck to that, and we were very, very heavily blessed and graced by him. And all our knowledge is, we owe it to him only. So after I took early retirement from the bank, in the sense I worked only for 16 years. And at my 39th year, I left the bank. And since I decided to remain single, and I was not much worried about future funds and provident fund and things like that. But anyway, everything was very, very convenient and comfortable for me. And then I started taking my guru passed away in 1991. And so from the early 80s up to his passing away, every day we used to go to his house and take classes and all that. And after 91, I started studying more under some other acharyas, like in Sringeri Sharada, there was a very traditional scholar by name Sri K. Krishnajoyis, and he was the Asana Vidwan of Sringeri Sharada. In Bangalore, he was in the Vedanta department, and he was teaching some people there, and he took some classes for me also. Till he passed away, I was under his tutelage also for some time. Then after that, I started seriously writing and all, because writing drew somehow I discovered that writing was my forte, or it was my passion. And I joined some discussion groups like Advaita L and Advaitan and all that. And then so many questions used to come. And to answer the questions, I used to read more and all. And then, because when we give an answer, it has to be authentic. And we have to see the authentic text and give authentic answers. So all that demanded more and more study, deep study and all that. And since I had the language ability advantage in English, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, Hindi, Sanskrit and all that, from so many sources I could get this thing. Resources were so many available in so many places, especially in social media like YouTube and all that. You have so many classes and all that. So in so many languages. So many texts are covered by so many acharyas in so many languages, and we could take advantage of all of them. And that's how I started writing, and that became a passion. And this WordPress blog, Adbhutam, that also grew up. And I discuss, I write in Kannada also, a very on a very large number of topics in many groups in Facebook and other places. So this is how I am now, taking classes and doing Anushtanam and studies and all that.
Wonderful, Acharya. I mean, that's a very, very unique journey that you have had. We were considering, we have had so many conversations, and I always approach you with my questions, and you're enlightening, very insightful emails and responses that I have read. I would never have guessed that you would have started this Vedanta journey quite late, in the sense that after you went to the profession, and then somehow you met. I would have believed that you must have studied the Shastra from a very, very early age. That was the impression I always got. But very interesting. So you mentioned in the context of your teacher, Dr. Subramaiya, you mentioned about he wanted to study in traditional way. So can you just give a brief understanding for the benefit of our viewers? What is the difference between a traditional approach to Vedanta, traditional teaching tradition of the Vedanta, versus the modern approach to teaching Vedanta? How they are different, and why the traditional approach is preferable, of course.
Correct. Yeah, it is very, very important to know that difference also, because see, in the traditional way of studying Vedanta, the method is first, ideally, a young boy goes to the Gurukulam and studies Veda first. And then, so that is the traditional, exactly the core traditional way of getting into the Shastra. So he studies his Shaka of Veda, whether it is Yajurveda or Rigveda, for some years. And after that, simultaneously, he will be taught Sanskrit also. Sanskrit, if not grammar, the Sanskrit Subhashitas and some basics of Sanskrit he will be taught. And as he grows up, he gets a very, somewhat a fairly good grounding in Sanskrit. Because all our core texts are in Sanskrit, it is a very, very it's a must that a person knows Sanskrit when he comes to study Vedanta. So that is the traditional way of looking at things. Because that's how we see in all the traditions, like whether Advaita, Advaita, or Vishtadvaita, that this is the same method followed. So the first, a person gets a very good grounding in Sanskrit. And after that, he gets an introduction to the Nyaya Shastra, because Nyaya is a very, very important tool with which you can study, write, and understand. Because all the Bhashyas and all that they have been built on this model of Nyaya, Vyakarana, Mimamsa. So these three things are always there. That's why in the prayer to his earlier gurus, Shankaracharya, in the Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashyam, he says, Yairime Gurubhik Purvam Padavakya Pramanataha Vyakhyata Sarva Vedanta Tan Nityam Pranatosmyaham. So in that prayer, Shankaracharya says, I pray, I offer my obeisance to all my earlier acharyas who have commented and expatiated on the Upanishads, and who were very well versed on in Nyaya, Tarka, Vyakarana, and Mimamsa. So Pada, Vakya, Pramana, these three words, they have this, they mean Pada Shastra is Vyakarana Shastra, Pramana Shastra is Nyaya Shastra, and Vakya Shastra is Mimamsa Shastra. So all traditional works will be built on or written on the basis of these three Shastras. In the sense, these three Shastras help the method of putting up a subject, developing it, and presenting it to the reader. So these three background of these three shastras will be considered to be very, very ideal. And a person who is very well versed in these three shastras, if he comes to Vedanta, his worth will be very, very great. Like, for example, Sri Manidra Shastri we see today, he is incomparable in Veda, in Nyaya Shastra, Veda, Mimamsa, and Vyakarana also. And such a person who comes to Vedanta, he will come with a lot of background, that very, very valuable background. It will be useful for the seeking public also. So that way, in the traditional way, this is how they are groomed. The person is groomed in these three shastras in the beginning, and then he enters the core topic of Vedanta. And the Bhashyas are also written in that language only. So a person with that background, he will be able to see more in the Bhashyas than when compared to a person who doesn't have this background. That is the advantage. So I have experienced that when listening to Sri Manidra Shastri's exposition of this Prasthana Bhashya. He will read a passage, he will read a line and then expound it. And while doing that, he will show how it is having this embedded in it, the Mimamsa part or the Nyaya part and Vyakarana part and all that. So a person with that background will be able to get more out of the Bhashyas. And a person who without that background surely will not be able to get so much. So that is the one core difference between the traditional study of Vedanta and the others. And one more thing, in the traditional study, the Brahma Sutras or Bhashyas are studied in depth. The Upanishads are studied in depth, and then Upanishad Bhashyas are studied in depth, and then the Bhagavad Gita Bhashya also studied in depth, along with some other texts like Naishkarmya Siddhi, Swarajya Siddhi, and things like that, which are all Prakarana Granthas, which add to the understanding of these Bhashyas, three Bhashyas. And it will be very, very important, useful also for a person to study those texts also along with this Bhashya, so that the understanding is very, very deep and wide also. So this is the difference. So if for a person who in a modern situation where he doesn't do all these things like Nyaya, Vyakarana, and things like that, and he comes straight to the Prasthana Traya, for him, even to understand the Prasthana Trayas without a good grounding on at least Sanskrit, it will be very, very difficult. So, and a person who teaches also without that background also will not be able to give very good full value of the Bhashya to the student. So that is one thing. So if they are having this background, it will be a very plus advantage for them. Without that background, definitely it is a compromise only. So that is there. And in one more thing, in the modern situation, in the sense where a person has not traditionally gone through all these things, he will not be putting more importance on the Prasthanatraya. His focus will be on the Prakarana Granthas like Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, and Ashtavakra Gita, and so many other texts, Yoga Vasishta and all that. So that is also one difference between the traditional approach and the modern.
Thank you, Acharya. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the traditional approach is more elaborate, more systematic, and more comprehensive, whereas I think even many modern Vedanta tradition, Vedanta parampara sampradayas, they take a more lighter version of it, so that more audience, I mean, a larger number of people can gain entry into
Yeah,
Vedanta. That
right.
could be
Correct.
explain the
Correct.
difference in approaches, I think. Um, Moving on, I want to ask you more about what was your first experience when you met your guru, Sri Subramaiya ji, when at his home? And what you mentioned that he was born for teaching. So can you elaborate on what are some of the unique aspects of his teachings, unique methods of his teachings, or some very interesting anecdotes that you could
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah. See, when I went to his house, the very ambience in his house and the very way he was conducting himself and all that attracted me very much. And then when I saw that he was taking classes and all that, I requested him if I can join the class. Then he gave me permission that you can join the class, because I was working in the bank and I had to go from the bank to his house. And fortunately in my bank I could leave the bank at 3:30 or so, because that was the kind of work which was given to me. And after that, I could go to his house, and he used to be waiting for somebody to come. And I used to get the feeling that it was like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He was waiting for his disciples, like Vivekananda, and he used to wait for them. So it was a kind of a little different version of that. And our Acharya used to his commitment to knowledge and his joy in knowledge was so great that being deprived of it was very, very uncomfortable for him. So if he doesn't have people to talk to, and especially on these texts and take classes, he would be feeling like a fish out of water. And I have seen also that he was such a great Acharya. He had known the text so very well, but yet he used to quote Sri Chandrasekhar Bharati Swami as saying that it seems Chandrasekhar Bharati Swami used to say, even if a person is a very great scholar in Sanskrit grammar, if he is to go to teach the class on Rama Shabda, which is the most fundamental thing, he has to see the books before going to the class. So that is the kind of rigor he used to. And Chandrasekhar Bharati Swami has mentioned that, and our Acharya used to mention that to us also. And then he used to follow that also so very well. And I have seen him, if I go to his house at an unannounced time at his house, I used to see him reading a text, preparing for the evening class. So evening people used to come for the class. So he used to read the text line by line, and he used to make marginal marks and footnotes and all that, to say what points should be highlighted and what extra points should be quotations and all that, which have to be mingled with this class in the evening. So that is his preparation was like that. So he used to prepare himself for the evening class, even though he had got the summum bonum of these studies and all that by himself. But that was the type of person he was. And anybody who would approach him with a sincere seeking that please teach me this, he used to give them some time and ask them to come. Whether it is every day or whether it is once in a week or twice in a week, he used to give them time. And fortunately for him, he was not a householder. He was a single man. And morning till evening, he had all this time for himself for study and teaching. And he used to do a lot of his own Anushthanam and all that. He was in the Vichara Marga. He was not in the Dhyana Marga or Samadhi Marga and all that. He was in the Vichara Marga, pure Vichara Marga. And he has been tremendously blessed by the Acharyas of the Sringeri Peetham. And Sri Chandrasekhar Bharati Swami, who was known to go into a state called Antarmukha and all that. During that period also in Sringeri, he has blessed my Acharya by giving him some very deep insights on Panchadashi and things like that. If not taking classes for our Acharya, he has made some Vedantic insights. He has given him some very good insights on Panchadashi and all that. So our Acharya himself has said that. And his commitment to this study was like this, and it was very, very rigorous. And as I said, he wouldn't tolerate even missing the classes for no good reason at all. So I'll tell you one thing, even if we were to undergo a period of ashaucha, like some Vrita Shaucha and all that for 10 days, he used to be worrisome for him, because for 10 days, if he doesn't come to this class, he will be missing a lot. So he used to make some concessions for that. And he used to say that you come, you don't mix with the other people, you sit a little far away from here and you listen to the class and go. So that is the kind of commitment he had with studies. And I remember there have been many people who have committed the Bhagavad Gita 18 chapters to memory, and they have submitted to him. So as and when they finish one chapter, they would take a time with him, and they would come to his house and recite those shlokas and take his blessings. And there have been people who have committed to memory all the 500 and odd shlokas of the Viveka Chudamani also, and submitted to him. And there is one person I remember, who is a lady. She had memorized all the 555 sutras, Brahma sutras, and submitted to him. So he used to inspire that. And there were many women participants also in the classes for us. And there was no bar for women from studying Vedanta. He used to teach. And Sringeri Acharya himself had blessed him. To these people you teach. And he used to teach them. And it was a very nice thing to see. And I remember the way of teaching also. He used to go to the bottom of the topic and expound. One instance I can tell you how detailed his teaching was. Taittiriya Upanishad, the Bhashya of the Shankaracharya. And so while teaching that, there were about 8 to 10 people sitting in front of him, listening to the class. So each line of the Bhashya he would read and expound in Kannada, of course. And while doing that, one person will be having in hand the commentary of Anandagiri for the Bhashya. Another person will be having the commentary called Vanamala, which is only for this Taittiriya Bhashya. It's a very good commentary, very useful to understand the Bhashya. And then another person will be having Sureshwaracharya's Vartika of Taittiriya Upanishad. And another person will be having Vidyaranya's exposition of the Taittiriya Upanishad. So, and there is one more thing, which is Vidyaranya's yes, a verse form of the Brahma Sutras. It's a very nice thing. And so Taittiriya and all that is covered in that also. So Vaiyasika Nyayamala, that also he used to explore. So 5-6 people with 5-6 different texts will be studying all this simultaneously. So after the Bhashya, one person will be asked to read that from his book, another person from his book, and all that will be explained. Wherever difficulty is there, he will explain all that. So this is the way he used to take the class of that this thing. And then his class also was it had the very great mix of bhakti and jnana, in the sense the class used to start with prayer to the earlier acharyas of the Sringeri Peetham and the earlier Advaita Acharyas and all that. And that itself used to take about 5 to 7 minutes or about 10 minutes of that prayer thing only. And after that, the Shanti Pata used to be there, because in the traditional study, that 10 Shanti mantras are there. For each Vedic Shaka, there is a mantra like Shanno Mitra Shambharnaha and Apyayanto and so many other mantras, which are, some of them are familiar also outside. So all this Badran Karnebi and all that. So after all this, the study will start. And over the days, he had taught us to commit to memory the first few sentences of the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Adhyasa Bhashya, Yushmadasmat Pratyaya Gocharayoho and all that. And every day we had to say that in the beginning of the class. And some very, very great sayings of Shankaracharya in the Bhashya, like what is the kind of Aparoksha Jnana. What is the Aparoksha Jnana? How is it expressed? Shankaracharya has expressed it in 3 or 4 places in his Bhashyas, and our Acharya had taught us all that and asked us to commit to memory, because these things help us in getting the Aparoksha Jnanam by ourselves. So he used to ask us to recite that also along with the other prayer and all that. So all these things will take about 10 to 15 minutes, and after that the classes will start. And at the end of the class also there will be some prayers and all that. And there will be Dakshinamurthy Stotram, Namaskaras and all that. And when we were to leave the house, he used to bless us with some special shlokas and all that, Guru Raksha Stotra and all that. So it used to be a very great ritual, but then every day we had to follow that. And when we came back home, it used to be 9 o'clock or 9:30 or so. And but then it was all a kind of a different world when we go to his house and remain in the class. And Sundays used to be more rigorous, in the sense more people, because all the people who come for his classes in the evening used to work in some offices or some institutes, or they will be studying and all that in colleges. But Sundays they're all having holiday, so he used to ask them to come earlier on Sundays and have come for 2 or 3 more extra classes on Sundays. So that was the kind of life he led and inspired us also. And our Sringeri Acharyas, whenever our group goes to Sringeri, the first thing he would ask is, what is the class he's doing now? What text is he teaching now? And on one occasion, Sringeri Acharya said in Kannada, Subrahmanian hatra irodu ellavanu ನೀವು ಕಿತ್ಕೊಂಬಿಡಿ ನೀವು. Whatever he has, you just snatch it from him and keep it for yourself, because it is so rare that all these things are so rare and so valuable that before his time passes, everything you should take from him. So that is the kind of regard they had for our Acharya. They used to respect him very much, love him very much, and bless us also, because we were all his students.
It's a very, very fascinating account, Acharya, to just listen.
I will tell you just one more incident.
Yeah.
At one time, there were some obstacles, in the sense, somehow people couldn't reach his house on time, or they fell ill, or they had some fever or something like that. They couldn't come to the classes and all that. Then when our Acharya mentioned it to our Guru, Sringeri Vidyatirtha Swami, he blessed him by giving him a Ganesha idol. And he asked him to ask my Guru to keep one flower on that idol, and that will take care of your vignas and all that. So my Acharya did that, and even now in his house it is there, that idol is there. So he used to follow that also very much. And the Sringeri Acharyas have blessed us in warding off the vignas also for our classes. So that is the kind of grace that he received from the Acharyas, and passed it to us also.
That's really wonderful. I mean, and the kind of rigor, the kind of dedication, and I mean that is something very rare in today's world. In a modern academic setting, that is almost missing. While you were speaking, you mentioned that his path was Vichara Marga and not Dhyana or Samadhi Marga. Can you just elaborate on this, especially in the context of Vedanta? What does this Vichara Marga versus Dhyana Marga? How does it play out?
See, there's a shloka also on that. That is, some people naturally they are inclined for Vichara. Some are naturally inclined for dhyana and all that. So these two distinct paths have been recognized by our earlier acharyas, and they have also mentioned it. So that's how it is. So if you can see in the Sringeri Parampara itself, our Abhinav Vidyatirtha Swamiji was inclined to dhyana. At a very early stage, about 14, 15, 16 and all that, he started doing that. And before 18, he had achieved the pinnacle of dhyana, like Nirvikalpa Samadhi and all that. But at the same time, see, in dhyana also, the Vedanta is the one which is the core content of that dhyana. See, for any dhyana means meditation in normal terms. And what do they meditate? They meditate upon the highest Brahman, which is Atman, which is Nirguna, naturally. And that dhyana also will be achieved by first Saguna Dhyanam and all that, and then ultimately a person goes to Nirguna Dhyanam. Because Saguna Dhyana is the one which is comparatively easier for a person, because one can meditate on the form and the attributes and gunas and all that of Bhagavan. And then that gives lot of Chitta Shuddhi and also Chitta Ekagrata. And these are the two things. And then with that, a person ends up in Nirvipika Samadhi and attains the Aproksha Jnanam of Nirguna Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. But in the Vichara Marga, the focus is not on dhyana so much, but it is on the deliberation of the topics of the passages in the Upanishad Bhashyas and all that. The shlokas like Manobuddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham, and so many stotras Shankaracharya himself has composed for enabling the aspirants to recite them and contemplate on their meaning and all that. So here it is more on contemplation of the meaning of the text, and then getting of the meaning of that, the core meaning of that, which is naturally Nirguna Brahman Atman. So the focus will be on this. that is to get into the text and drawing out the meaning of the text and internalizing the meaning of the text for oneself. So here the focus is not on samadhi and all that, but then here the focus is on nididhyasana. Of course, nididhyasana is definitely internalizing, which also is a kind of dhyana only. But then here it is the preparation is on this prasthana, traya, bhashyas and all that, and then the core content, which is the nature of the Atman and what is the nature of Brahman and how these are identified through the Mahavakya. So this is the way. So Vichara Marga, some people, as I said, they're inclined by nature for this Vichara. They are inclined to study these texts and contemplate on them. Whereas a person who is inclined to dhyana, he won't bother much on the study of the text. He will take what is required for his dhyana and he will do dhyana on that. So for him, the focus is not much on study. He will be guided to go to a particular passage or particular text and then focus on that. Whereas here it is not that way. So these two are different. They have got their own, you can say plus points or minus points or whatever. But then the goal will be the same. That the goal of attaining the Aprosha Jnanam of Aham Brahmasmi will be the same for both. But then these two paths are there, definitely. They can't be denied. No. But then, of course, there will be persons who are adepts in both. That is also there. Such persons are also seen. So that also can't be removed, or you can't say that those things are not there. Definitely, that is also possible. And there are examples for that also.
Would it be correct to say that though both the paths involve some form of contemplation, concentration, meditation, in the Vichara Marga, the contemplation is of a more on the nature of Vichara, that is intellectual contemplation, or some form of what Ramana Maharshi used to say, the focus on the I, or the Nididhyasa. Whereas in the Dhyana Marga, the focus is more on the dhyana of the yoga, the Yoga Sutras, or the mantra anusthana dhyana, saguna dhyana path.
Yeah, correct. See, in the case of the dhyana marga, it is on the mano nigraha, that is the chitta vritti nirodha. That is the focus on that. Whereas here, it is not chitta vritti nirodha, but it is the trying to internalize the core Vedantic idea that one is Nirguna Brahman. So, of course, by doing that also, he has to ward off the other things, because the other worldly things have to be warded off, because when they come, they clash with this and he can't achieve the goal. But then the kind of vairagya required is common for both. All that is there. Chitta Shuddhi, Shama, Dama, everything is common for both the type of aspirants. But only thing is what they put into practice finally, that only differs in these two cases. One will be the attachment with, or the association with text more, whereas there it is the association with the mind more. That is all it is. So that's how it is. So the texts are also ultimately aimed at culturing the mind only, because manas is the only instrument we have to know the truth. There's no other instrument. So manasaivanu drashtavyam. So that is the Vedic message also. So mind is the only thing, and that mind has to be sufficiently cultured, cleansed, purified, made subtle and all that. So because this is a very, very subtle topic, subtle subject like Brahman and Atman. So with the gross mind, we can't understand that. There is one very nice, amusing analogy that Swami Vidyaranya gives in the Jivanmukti Viveka for this. He says, it will be to approach the subtle topic of Atman with a gross mind, it will be like something like trying to stitch a silk cloth with the end of the pointed end of the crowbar. So the crowbar is gadari or gadari. We used for digging something, or to pound something which is very gross, and food grains and things like that. So with that point end, if we are trying to stitch a silk cloth, it is impossible. It is so very foolish to do that. Whereas that requires only a very thin and pinpointed needle to do that. So this Atma Vichara will require that kind of a subtle intellect and subtle mind, and the mind should be capable of analyzing or approaching or thinking of or contemplating on subtle topics. Because gross objects are there, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha and all that. And all human beings are adepts in that without being trained. But then for this, one has to undergo a different training. And that's what is contributed by the sadhana chaturthi sampatti and all that.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I think that brings a lot of clarity. Moving forward, yeah, I want to discuss a bit about your blog, the Adbhutam. I think you have been writing it for many years now, and as one, I have been a voracious reader of your blog. Though I won't say that I have read everything, but I have read a lot of entries in the blog, and one thing I have noticed is one is, of course, the aspect of Vedanta, lot of Vedanta related blogs, but there are also other aspect which is the blogs which uphold the Shiva Paratvam, if I have to put it that way. How did this strain of Shiva Paratvam came about, and what made you take it up? And is it that in your personal Anushtanam, Shiva is your Ishta, or can you shed some light on this?
Yeah, it is a very interesting question. And I would like to give a clarification also for that. See, what happened about 10 years back, someone brought to my notice a Vaishnava blog. It is a Vaishnava blog. Those people who are running that blog are Vaishnavas, who are Sri Vaishnavas of Ramanuja following. And they started a campaign to paint all the present Advaitins in black. So what they started saying is, Shankaracharya never upheld Shiva at all. In his Bhashyams and all, you can see only Vishnu to be the highest god. And the present Advaitins who apply Bhasma on their face and on their forehead, and they do Shiva Puja and things like that, and they go to Shiva temples and they are having Shiva names and all that. They have divorced from Shankaracharya very long back. And for that, for those people, Vidyaranya is the villain, and Apai Dikshita is another villain who polluted the pure Shankaracharya Vedanta. So this is how they started. When I saw that, they tried to make a divide between certain acharyas of the Shankara order and certain others, and trying to say that only those acharyas of one group, they alone stick to the original teaching of Shankaracharya, and which is the Vedanta, original Vedanta, whereas the other acharyas and all that, they have moved away from Shankara. And they tried to show that Shankaracharya, Sureshwaracharya, and one or two people from that period alone were held were pure Advaitins who held Vishnu to be the highest, and all the others who started saying that Shiva is also highest and Shiva is the highest, or Shiva is also the along with Vishnu, Harihara Abheda. So these kind of people, they are all not Vedantins at all. They are only Shaivas in the guise of Vedantins. So this kind of things started coming up, and I had a lot of debates with them and all that. And finally, I decided to go deep into the Bhashyas themselves and the commentaries and the other literature. They claimed to be purely Shankaracharya and purely holding Vishnu as the highest and all that. I went into them, and then I started revealing that those acharyas themselves have also been Harihara Abhedavadids. Much to the disagreement of these people. So that's why I went into deep study of Mahabharata, Ramayana, or any commonly accepted Puranas and all that, like Vishnu Purana, Bhagavatam and all that, for example, and brought out all these texts have so much of Harihara Abheda content, Trimurti Abheda content, where and especially even Shiva Paramya content also is there in these texts. So how can one say that they are purely Vishnu and all that? So to debunk that their claims, I started doing that, and a lot of things came up. And even now, whenever I read a text, any such book, these things come to the fore because I look for them and I focus on them and highlight them and show it to the public, to the general reading public. Then see how the Veda Vyasa is not sectarian, how Veda Vyasa or Valmiki himself is not sectarian, and much to the disagreement of the Vaishnava people. So that's how it came about.
Wonderful, wonderful, Acharya. I think I mean you should plan to bring out some of your collection of articles as a book. I think that would be
Yeah,
great
correct.
work if that can be done.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, So, my next question is, I mean, there are, you have been, uh, in these inter sampradaya debates on various issues, and you have been engaging with a lot of people about various misconceptions about Vedanta. So, what are some of the very common misconceptions that you have encountered that people have regarding Shankaracharya's teachings and Vedanta in general?
Yeah, one that kind of thing is uh, can be mentioned is about Swami Satchidanandendra Saraswati of Bangalore. He was a very eminent Acharya who lived in Bangalore, was a sannyasin. He has written more than 250 books in Kannada and some of them in English also. A very great learned Acharya. He held an idea that the concept of Mula Vidya is not approved by Shankaracharya, Sureshwaracharya, and Gaudapadacharya. That is this thesis. And he started writing very lot things about it. And then his idea is that his thinking is that the post Shankara Advaitins like Bhamati and other Vivarana school, Vivarana Acharyas and all that, including Vidyaranya and Apayitishra, etc., they have all corrupted the Shankaracharya's original pure Vedanta, which didn't have any room for such concepts like Mula Vidya and Avidya and Sushupti and all that. These are only two or three things, contention, points of contention. And there have been debates also with scholars and all that about this. The scholars who follow his ideas, they have had a debate with the scholars who are traditional scholars which do not subscribe to that idea. So these debates have happened in the public also before, and a lot of things have been written and all that. So when this topic comes for debate or discussion in any group, then I would point out the points that which contradict the ideas of held by the other group, which can be found in Shankaracharya's Bhashyas themselves. So it ultimately comes to this. That is, we have got only the same set of prasthana traya, that is Brahma Sutras, Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita, which have been interpreted differently by the Advaita, Vishtadvaita, and Dvaita. In the same way, the same Shankaracharya Bhashyas, they have been certain aspects, these kind of passages, they have been interpreted differently by him. So this is the kind of contention that we find. Then normally there no other kind of disagreement will be there normally. This is the kind of this one thing which comes up now and then in discussion groups. The topic of Mula Vidya, Bhava Rupa Avidya, then Avidya in deep sleep and things like that. So this is the thing.
So, what are your personal stand on this, Acharya? So, what is this for the benefit of our viewers who are not very familiar with these arguments? So, what is this Mula Vidya and Bhava Rupa of Maya? So, can you please?
Yeah, I can briefly say what it is. See, the people who argue for Mula Vidya, they say that there is one ignorance which is basic and fundamental, which is there naturally there in all beings, and it expresses itself as taking the body to be the Atman and things like that. So, taking the body to be the Atman is Adhyasa, but then before that is one avidya, which results in adhyasa. So this is the contention of the people who subscribe for Mula Vidya. And this requires that since there is one avidya, this avidya has to be accepted to be an existent entity that's called Bhava Rupa. Only that can be addressed by the jnana of the Mahavakya. So if jnana vidya has to remove avidya, that avidya should be a candidate. That candidate, see, for example, in putting in very crude terms, if a person is shooting some object with a rifle, the bullet has to hit that object. So that object has to be there to be shot. So without that object, you can't say that there is something to be shot and all that. So in the same way, if vidya has to remove or annihilate avidya, that avidya has to be there. It has to be accepted to be an existing entity. So this is the contention of the, that is what is meant by Mula Vidya, Bhava Rupa Vidya. Bhava Rupa means existent entity. But then it was taken to be taken to mean by the other group, saying that if you say avidya is bhavarupa or maya is bhavarupa, then it will be an ever existing entity. It will be something like Brahman itself. But then the other party that comes to clarify that no, it is not like that. Even if it is a bhavarupa, it is definitely having an end. It is not like the permanent or eternal Brahman. So these are some issues like this. And so this is what is bhavarupa. Bhavarupa means something which is existent entity. So an abhavarupa cannot be attacked or cannot be annihilated. You can't discuss it or anything. It has to be accepted to be some existent thing. It may not be as real as Brahman. That is okay. It is the example given by these people is the perception of a snake in the rope. So the snake in the rope does not exist definitely. In all the 3 periods of time, it does not exist in the rope, surely. But then during the time of a person's experiencing it, it creates some fear or it creates some emotion in him. So he accepts it as an existing entity. For him, as long as he does not know the underlying rope, for him it is an existing entity only. Even though at later time it will be negated and it will be sublated and it will be gone forever. He will himself realize that even when he was thinking that it is existing, it was not existing there really. It is something like a dream only. So this is what is called bhavarupa. It is not abhavarupa. Abhava is like the hare's horn or something like that, which cannot be perceived at all. Nobody can experience hare's horn. But then here the mithya sarpa is experienced. So that experience part of it is what is adding power to the bhavarupatva. Whereas the hare's horn cannot be experienced itself. So it cannot have the bhavarupa status at all. So this is the difference.
Thank you, Acharya. I think that clarifies,
And one more thing I should add. See, these points, they are not very, very core or key or important for realization of one's Atma. See, this is only academic, ultimately. The Bhavarupatva or this kind of discussion is only academic. It is not going to affect a person ultimately in his realization. So that also we have to clarify to the general public.
I think I read somebody had said it that across all Advaita Sampradayas, the Brahma Satyatvam is indisputable among the sub-schools of Advaita Vedanta. Only the explanation of Jagat Mityatvam difference changes, but the Brahma Satyatvam part remains same for all of them.
True, very true, very true. Very nicely put it. Because Shankaracharya himself has said, see, with regard to Srishti, for example, creation of the world and so many other things, in Dvaita only there will be differences between one Upanishad and another Upanishad and all that. But then regarding Brahma Satyatvam and Brahman's nature, there won't be difference at all. So only with regard to Anatma, Abrahman, there will be differences. But then with regard to the core ultimate reality, which is the Paramarthika Satyam Brahman, there won't be differences at all across the texts also. So this is a statement which is agreeable to Shankaracharya himself.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think this is a very key topic and a lot more deliberation is definitely useful. But as you mentioned, it is not, it is more of academically inclined doubt, or rather intellectual doubt, rather than
affecting a person's
obstacle, in particular sadhana. We are almost nearing the end, so I have 1 or 2 more questions. One is, so Vedanta is basically a sadhana, a marga, a knowledge which is based on Shastra Pramana. That is, we have Shruti as the ultimate Shastra. But nowadays, in the current scenario, the way the schooling system is, the way we are, the scientific temper and all those things. So people often find it difficult to understand Shastra as a pramana, to accept Shastra as a pramana. This happens with Vedanta, but this also happens with the Dharma Shastra. Wherever the unique aspect of our Sanatana Dharma is this notion of Shabda as a pramana. So, and especially this notion of Veda as the ultimate pramana. So, can you, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Yeah. See, the very mention that Shastra or the Shabda is the sole pramana for this is because of the reason that both Brahma and Dharma are atindriya. So they are beyond our senses. They are super sensuous, we can say. So they are beyond our senses. So we can't approach them through the sensual pramanas, because sensual pramana is first of all pratyaksha, and based on that is anumana. And after that, the upamana, arthapati, and all that will come. Everything is based on pratyaksha only. Whereas this dharma and brahma are beyond pratyaksha. So you can't rely on these other pramanas at all. We can take other pramanas as subsidiary or contributing or our understanding of that. But then primarily the main pramana will be Shabda only. So that cannot be compromised at all. So even in the modern times, if modern educated people who are trying to come to Vedanta and all that, if they find this Shabda pramana to be a problem for them, they have to indulge more in thinking, contemplating, and discussing with proper acharyas, and then clarify their doubts, and then ultimately come to their understanding, come to a clear understanding that Shabda is the sole pramana for Dharma and Brahman, and you can't compromise on that at all. Other pramanas definitely aid. That is why in all Vedantas, these three pramanas are accepted. That is Pratyaksha, Agama, and Anumana. So these three are available, are accepted. Only the certain schools have the other things like Arthapati, Upamana, and Anupalabdhi and all that. So all those can be theoretically included in Anumana itself. But in any case, Shabda is definitely there. It has to be there, as I said, because the two topics of Brahma and Dharma, they are beyond Indriyas, Atindriya. So Shabda is the only pramana for knowing that.
I think it is this difficulty to accept Shabda as a pramana that makes some people trying to reinterpret Vedantic concepts in a way that they can fit it into modern scientific paradigm. So there are a lot of attempts in this to reinterpret our Shastriya concepts and somehow force fit into modern scientific paradigm, find correlations and all these intellectual gymnastics. I think the core reason is this inability to accept Shabda as a pramana.
Correct. Yeah, it comes as a blocking this thing. It blocks their view and blocks their path also if they do that. If they are only open to this, there's nothing wrong, and there's nothing unintelligent or being something old-fashioned and all that if they accept Shabda as a pramana, because as long as they have a seeking to Brahman or their own Atman, pure Atman, which is their own self, and that their own self is not available for any Indriya Pratyaksha or anything like that. So in fact, in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya at the beginning itself, Shankaracharya clarifies that nobody denies his existence. Everybody accepts his existence without being taught also. Nobody need to be taught that you exist. And everybody who has this idea of that I exist also knows very well that he is a sentient entity. So regarding this, there is no dispute at all. And the Shastras do not come to teach this at all. The Shastras come to teach, come to play their role only where we have wrongly accepted the body-mind complex also as ourselves. So that separation part of it alone is being stressed by taught by the Shastra. How you can separate yourself from the Anatma, that is the body-mind complex, that is the material part of it. So the consciousness part and the material part, they have got mixed up due to some avidya. And then the removal of the avidya by separating the consciousness part from the material part is the role of Vedanta. So that's what Shankaracharya clarifies at the beginning itself. So there is no need for anybody to be taught that he is a sentient entity. That's not required at all, because everybody knows that without being taught, he knows that he is a sentient entity, and that he exists also is accepted by anybody without any being taught to be taught on that lines. So only thing what is required is to help him separate himself from the Anatma. So in that juncture, the need for Shastra Shabda Pramana is required, because when we try to discriminate between the Atma and the Anatma, the Atma part has to be shown to be something which is beyond the Indriyas, Indriya Pratyaksha and all that. So at that time, we have to show that it is, we have to accept this Pramana as something which cannot be compromised at all. And there also, more for the Atman part, it is for the Brahman part that this Shabda is required. Because Brahman is not known to us in the world like any other object. So for that only we required Shastra Pramana. For the Atman, to discriminate from the other Panchakoshas and all that, it is possible. And then only when we come to identify this Atman with Brahman to the Mahavakya, then only the Shastra Pramana comes into play. Of course, in regarding the Dharma part of it, Dharma is Papa and Punya, and that is also not available for Pratyaksha. So one has to, if he is a believer, if he is a Astika, he has to definitely accept Shastra the Pramana. There is no other way. But even if the scientists are new, there is a modern people who do not want to accept Shabda as Pramana, but who are accepting the Papa and Punya things, even they will have to ultimately come to this Pramana only, because they also cannot prove the existence of Punya and Papa. And see, for example, now we have got this cloud storage and things like that. So nobody can say that this Papa and Punya is stored in some cloud. That is also not possible. So for that, one will have to believe in the, trust the, or have faith in the Shastra only, which says that if you do something now, you will get the fruit of it sometime later. So these are all the issues involved.
Thank you for the detailed answer, Acharya. I think this is a very crucial point that when we say Shastra as a Praman, it's not just a matter of blind belief or a belief.
Yeah,
it's about accepting what are the means of valid knowledge. Do we limit ourselves to only the Pratyaksha as a valid means of knowledge, or do we accept others as well? So it all boils down to that. So as we come to a conclusion, I have one final question. You also mentioned about how your guru used to practice a lot of anushtanam, and you have mentioned about your own anushtanam as well. So what kind of anushtanam is conductive for a Vedanta seeker, for a Vedanta practitioner seeker, and what all different kinds of anushtanams are there, and that could be adopted?
Yeah. See, one thing is that for Vedantic Anushtana or Vedantic practice, there has to be a systematic life that is there. A routine has to be followed in every day's waking hours that we have in every day. A good routine has to be there. That has to be definitely put into practice. That is having a time, giving a particular regular time for japa and dhyanam, that is contemplation, nididhyasanam and all that, in the morning and also in the evening. And then some time should be given for study of the text of the, that is the, whatever text a person is doing now, like Brahma Sutra or Upanishad Bhashya or some text like Ashtavakra Gita or Yoga Vasishta. Particular time has to be dedicated for that. And so this kind of routine has to be maintained by a person. And more important is his actions and thoughts have to be pure. That is also there. Sticking to Dharma and being devoted to any Ishta Devata. That is also is very, very important. So that Devata can be Krishna or Rama, or even in Krishna, it could be Gopala Krishna or Radha Krishna or anything, or Bala Krishna. And in Rama also. So we have got a large choice in that. So depending on the person's liking and all that, a person can choose a deity and have Ishta Devata Anushtana. And regard for a Acharya. It could be a living Acharya or an Acharya who has passed away, or even Shankaracharya. So that kind of devotion to that person, that a person also has to be there. And along with that, the practice. That is, a person has to conduct himself in our Acharya, Sri Subramanian, used to give emphasis on truth, speaking the truth. That is, at no occasion should you speak lies and your conduct also, like cheating or taking bribes and things like that. In fact, he used to go to the extent of saying that to everybody, all people who used to come to his house were working in some place or the other. He used to say, when you work in any place, you have to put in more work to them than the salary you get. So that is the kind of attitude he had. So he used to practice that also in the college. See, normally for a lecturer in a college, there will be 2 hours or 3 hours of teaching in a day. But then he used to say that the duty of a teacher is to go to the college at the time the college is opened, and then remain in the college till the college is closed, and even after his outside teaching hours, he should go to the library, equip himself with the updated knowledge in his field, and be available in the college to answer the doubts and give clarifications to the students who come to him. So this is his attitude, and he used to do that also. So he never used to come away from the college after finishing his classes. No, he used to remain in the college till the end, and then only he used to leave. And that is the kind of teaching he gave to other people also in wherever fields they worked. And one more thing he used to say is, he used to practice it also. Whether your parents are living or not, you have to revere them. Whether they are in a faraway place or not, you have to keep a photo of them and pay your respects to them on every daily basis. And I have seen himself. His mother was alive when we went there, and she was a very old lady. Every day he used to prostrate before her, as we have seen. So this is kind of moral and ethical practices that he inculcated in people. So these things are all indispensable for a spiritual aspirant. So he has to have these also, along with the study of the text and contemplation of the text and all that. They are all very, very important. So the sadhana will have all these aspects mingled into it. And in a whole day, routine also has to be fixed and followed.
I think one important aspect of Anushtanam, which is not stressed enough among modern Vedanta seekers, which I personally believe needs to be stressed, is the aspect of Devata Upasana, the mantra Anushtana, and such things. Because not everybody is Uttamadhikari. Actually, hardly there are very few Uttamadhikaris in the world. So we are all at different stages, and so the Devata Upasana, without the Anugraha, the progress is not possible. No matter how much Vedanta we study or we undergo Shravana. So I think Devata Upasana is something that has to be stressed more and more.
Correct. That's why even Shankaracharya, who is such a great proponent of Nirguna Brahman, he has given so much importance for Saguna Brahman. Even in his Bhashyas, he has given so much importance for it. He has said that, in fact, it will be very surprising for many people to know that in the Bhagavad Gita Bhashya of the 15th chapter, in the beginning, Shankaracharya says, he is rephrasing or he is articulating Krishna's words. The fruit of karma of the karma yogis and the fruit of jnana of the jnana yogis are both dependent on me, or they are under me. That's what Krishna says. So even for the jnana, it is out of the grace of the Saguna Brahman alone. Nirguna Brahma jnana also happens according to Advaita, according to Shankaracharya. So a person who might think that, okay, this is Nirguna Dhyana and Nirguna Upasana or Nirguna path that I am following, and there is no need for Saguna deities and all that. No, that is not approved, and that's not correct also. So the correct view of the Shastra is that even the Nirguna Jnanam is possible only because of the grace of the Saguna Brahman. So that's what Shankaracharya has taught in his Bhashyas.
I think put it differently, Brahman is one. The same Brahman
appears as
both Nirguna and Saguna. It is not two different Brahman as some confused. Yes. Thank you again, Acharya. On this note, we can conclude the session. I think it was a wonderful session, and thank you for sharing about all your journey, especially your interactions with your guru, one of the very great Vedanta Vidwans in the last 50-60 years. So it was a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much for taking time for doing this recording. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Sridhar, Nitin, for making this happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Viewers, with this we conclude the session. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Oh, that's it.